In this video, we're going to show you how to install a strut and spring leveling assembly on your Chevy Silverado. This will be located behind the front wheel. Let's get started. Using a 22mm socket, remove the lug nuts. Remove the wheel. Looking down into the engine bay on the passenger side, we're going to remove the 3 studs on the top of the strut. Remove the plastic stays off the top. Pull straight up on them. Do the same thing on this other side. Using an 18mm socket, remove all 3 nuts. Looking up at the bottom of the strut, we're going to remove the 2 15mm bolts for the strut. We're going to use a pry bar, pry back on the bottom of the strut. Tilt the strut towards you and remove it from the vehicle. Remove the top nuts off the assembly. Install the strut assembly into the vehicle. Line up the studs in the top. I'm going to put a nut on one of the top studs to hold it in place. Snug down the top nut using a 14mm wrench or socket. Remove the plastic stay for the ABS harness. We're going to remove the connector, push on the red tab to unlock it. And we'll push on the black tab and remove the connector. Pull the harness forward. Using a 10mm socket, we're going to remove the bolt for the brake bracket. Remove the bolt and remove the bracket from the upper control arm. Using an 18mm wrench, we're going to loosen the ball joint nut until it's just a few threads. Using a hammer, we're going to bonk the knuckle at the top to release the upper ball joint from the knuckle. We're going to use a bungee cord around the front of the hub, going to the top stud to hold our knuckle. You can use a pry bar and pull down on the upper ball joint. We're going to remove our ball joint nut, slowly let up, allowing the upper control arm to come out. Install the spacer on top of the lower control arm. We're going to hold that spacer while we use a pry bar to gently pull back on the strut. Get the bolts lined up with the holes and let them drop into place. Install the washer and nut onto the bottom strut bolt. Using a 17mm wrench, we're going to hold the head of the bolt while using a 17mm socket to snug down the nut. Do the same thing on the other side. Torque the lower strut bolts to 30 to 35 foot-pounds. pull the knuckle back up. We can take our strap off and use a pry bar and pull down on our upper control arm. Pull it into the knuckle. We'll get the nut started on our upper ball joint. Install the brake line bracket back to the upper control arm. Get the bolt installed. Pull the ABS wire up. Install the plastic stay to the bracket. Install the connector. Push until you hear a click. If you don't, give it a pull. Make sure it's locked on. Close the red locking tab. If you pulled it off of the bracket, reinstall it. Using a jack, we're going to push up on the lower control arm, giving our upper control arm room to be pulled down farther. When you're lifting up on the lower control arm, be sure you're not pulling the truck off of your jack stands. Use a pry bar in the coil to pull down on the upper control arm, pushing the ball joint into the knuckle. This will hold it so we are able to tighten it. Snug down the ball joint nut. Torque the ball joint nut to 77 foot-pounds. If you can't get a torque wrench on it, do the best you can. Remove the jack out from under the lower control arm. Install the wheel. Install all of the lug nuts. Snug the lug nuts down. Torque the wheels in a star pattern to 140 foot-pounds. Install the other top two nuts onto the strut. Snug the nuts down. Torque the top nuts to 37 foot-pounds. Install the plastic stays onto the studs. And you're good to go.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.